All right, we have a quorum here, so we're going to call the meeting to order. And Mr. Alderson will lead us in the pledge to the Texas flag and the United States flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And now Jimmy will lead us in a prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come now thanking you for the blessings of life that you've bestowed upon each of us. We thank you for the freedom to come together without fear of man to help guide the school district in Gatesville, Texas. We thank you for all these young people who are the future of America. We thank you for blessing us to live in the greatest nation on earth. Help us to make good decisions, always keep open mind, and do the best thing for all the people that live in this area. We ask these favors and blessings in your holy Son's name, our Savior, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Well, guys, we'll start with our staff and student spotlight. And so tonight we wanted to put a highlight on the cross-country team and how well they did. They did. Specifically, we'll start with Coach Kelly. He's in his 14th year at ISD. He's been the cross-country and track coach the past 5 years, so he led the group, and they did well in spite of him. No, I'm just sorry. But I'll start with the district competition because this is really pretty impressive. So the boys team had a second place finish with Carlo winning the individual race, his 7th of the season. That's pretty impressive. Luis had second. The girls varsity team finished 4th with Vanya winning the girls overall race and Bethany placing 3rd. Then they went to Lubbock. And at the regional meet, Vanya was 4th, Bethany 19th, Carlo was 3rd, and Luis 11th. And then at state, all 4 placed in the top half of the state championship, which is just unbelievable. Carlo was ran a 16:02, Luis a 16:07. They were 8th and 11th respectively. There was not much in between those runners. And then Vanya was 11:56, she was 15th, and Bethany was 12:42 at 70th out of 152 athletes. So, wow, that's impressive. Can any of you on the board still run a mile in under 8 minutes?
Easy.
Now, okay. Well, I've got, yes, guys, we're really proud of you guys. And that's, you know, we have, I was talking to somebody this weekend how I'm so proud of so many of our athletic groups. We have people that just do outstanding jobs, amazing performances. So if I talked about you 4 guys and Coach Kelly, would y'all come on up? Bethany, Luis, Vanya, and Carlo, we've got certificates, and Coach Kelly. And we also have Coach Kelly. A nice little form.
Oh, all right.
It's a win. Luis and Carlo and Vanya. All right. And quick picture for the paper. Over here. All right, guys, over here.
Yeah, good thing I changed. Thank you. Gave me good insight.
You go.
I can stand
Normie.
behind you. Squeeze
Almost 7 foot.
All right, y'all ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
I don't know how much.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the soccer team coming too right after practice. It smells like success in here. Well, in kind of that same vein, we want to honor another person that has contributed greatly to the sports program, and that's Jeff Armstrong, specifically with soccer. And so Ms. Penrod gave me a lot of these details on how Jeff does a lot of things behind the scenes, where he's picking up kids, giving them rides, making sure that they can afford to play league soccer, doing a lot of things just sacrificial, trying to make sure, and really we're reaping the rewards with 2 really good soccer teams, boys and girls side both. And so Jeff, I'm so proud and so happy with all the things that you do behind the scenes, and I tell you what, it's really amazing what all you've done to help make sure the kids that may not have the opportunity get to play. And so that's so imperative to make sure they're successful at the high school and the varsity level. So Jeff, we've got a fancy Hornet for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You ready to take it? Sure. They're going to put us on the back page.
All right. Thank you.
Challenge all y'all to come out. We got one more soccer game. Come out with your sleeping bag and watch it. Kids are amazing.
I have been in the press box.
You got to be out in the
The
stadium.
full bag, we need the sleeping bag.
Too cold, too cold.
Now we'll get out of y'all's way.
Thank you guys for coming.
Where's the party?
Thank y'all.
That's a good group of kids.
Our last one our senior.
Yeah, well, that's, leaves us.
Well, while they're kind of making the transition, I want to go over a couple of things just real quick. The next item is the fundraiser update. So last Friday, we raised money for Michaela Oblis, who has been having some seizures and really is in pretty poor health, really, to say the least. And so the school raised $1,420 for Michaela's family. And so just through a simple $1 hat fundraiser, we have very generous staff members and parents and kids, and so that was really helpful, and the family was very appreciative. They're staying in the Ronald McDonald house while she gets treated. And I get updates on Facebook through family and friends who visit her, and she has a long road to recovery, but she makes little progress here and there. So she's been trying to, open her eyes, speak, squeeze hands, and do things like that. So we sure hope Michaela keeps doing better, and y'all be sure to pray for her and that family. And one other thing that's not on the agenda, but I'd be remiss to not mention that Coach Steve Ellison passed away this past week. And Steve was a fantastic teacher and coach, well liked. I had him for 8th grade U.S. history and football and maybe basketball too. And what a great guy. Gone too soon. I think Steve was like 63, 64. And so most of the family, I think, is in the Arkansas area, but y'all be thinking about them as well. And that's all of our recognitions.
Do we have any public comments about items that are not on the agenda?
No, sir, not tonight.
Not tonight. So we'll move right on to public hearing with Mr. Webb.
All right. Good evening. How are you guys? Good. Can I move this back? Yes. Let's see. All right. So every year, Gatesville ISD holds a public hearing to discuss the district's latest taper, and what that is it's called the Texas Academic Performance Report, and that's kind of like our school report card. And so, kind of put in the slide presentation here just kind of how we've performed over last year. And I know you guys, typically when you look at these reports, you're going to look at how Gatesville ISD compares to the state and the region. Okay, but I also know you guys like to know how we've been performing over the past several years, so I tried to combine it in one report as opposed to giving it two separate reports. And so you can kind of see here, this right here is all every star that we take grades 3 through high school, and this is at approaches grade level or above in all grades, all subjects. And so you can kind of see there how we've performed over the past 4 or 5 years. And you notice 2020 is not there because we did not take a STAR test in 2020. It was the state of Texas canceled it. And so you can kind of see where we are. And if you see 2021 is highlighted in green, that means that we either tied or surpassed the state and the region in that area. And as we go through this report, you'll notice that every category is in green. We were not below the state or the region in any area. Now, are there some certain subject areas that we were? in certain grade levels? Yes, but when you look at it holistically overall, we outperform the state and the region in every area that we report on. And so that was all subjects, all grade levels. This sorry, what are you on? So this is meets grade level or above, okay? And so you think about it, we're coming off of 2020 and 2021, and we're green there. When it looks at reading, approaches grade level or above. You know, we went down a little bit district-wide, but we outperformed the state and the region on that as well. Meets grade level or above in reading. You know, and again, this is 3 through high school. Mathematics approaches grade level or above. You know, we took a dip there, but we outperformed the state and the region when you look at all grades, all subjects in math. Meets grade level or above, same thing. See a little bit of a decline, but we outperform the state and the region. Here's writing. You know, writing's kind of been a struggle. Same thing. You know, we're performing about where we were prior to the pandemic. And then this is meets grade level or above. But in every single one of these areas, we outperform the state and the region in every area. This is science. So this is 5th grade, 8th grade biology. Meets grade level or above in science. Social studies. Saw a big improvement in social studies. So this is 8th grade social studies and U.S. history, high school U.S. history right here. Meets grade level or above. Kind of see where we are. And then we can pass through this. This is academic growth. There's not an academic growth measure this year because we did not have a STAR test in 2020, so there's no growth measure. We can't measure 2020 to 2021. And so that was not reported, but I left it in there because it is part of the report. Keep going past that. While Dr. Pollard's going through that, just some of the highlights I had in the summary there. Just when you look at all grade levels and all subjects, we were 72% approaching or higher, and the compared to 68% in Region 12 and 67% in the state. This is the attendance rate. So this attendance is a 2-year lagging indicator. So you look at 2020, we were at 98.3%. But remember, we didn't come back to school after spring break, and so the state said as long as the kids are turning in work, they're showing some type of
proof of life.
Yeah, something that you gave them attendance credit. So our attendance rate in 2020 was 98.3%. Wouldn't you love to have that every year? Yeah. Dropout rate 2020 was about on par. But you can see that we're better than the state and the region in every area. College ready graduates, 82.9%. When you look at the region and the state, they're in the 50s. College and career military readiness, we're 85% there. The state and the region are in the 60s in that. Average SAT scores, just kind of let you know where we are there. I don't think we have as many kids taking the SAT anymore. Most of them take the ACT. ACT scores here. You can kind of see where we took a little bit of a dip. And also these tests, SAT and ACT, were hard to get in to take tests in 2020. Student ethnic distribution, so just kind of looking at our student makeup, and it's really kind of unchanged over the past 4 or 5 years. Demographics, this is kind of an interesting one here. So you look at our economically disadvantaged. So 2018 it was 50.1, and it rose about 1.5 points in 2019 to another percentage point in 2020 to 7 percentage points in 2021. Our English language learners is up students with disciplinary placements. Again, that's another lagging indicator. So the last time that was reported for this report was in 2020. And the reason is, you see how it took a decline there. We didn't come back to school after spring break. And so that's part of the reason why you see that percentage now. Our at-risk students, that number continues to rise. Our enrollment by program, you can kind of see there our bilingual ESL has increased a little bit. Career Tech, that one wasn't reported this year for some reason. GT is sitting about the same, and you can see our SPED population is increasing slowly. Teachers' years of experience is another thing we have to report on, and it's about where it usually is, so not a lot of change there. And then violent and criminal incidences is another thing that we report on. And you have to go to a certain site, and I don't know, I'm sure we had some of these incidences, but the only thing that it reported on was fighting. So that's why you see that and nothing else. And the last one is talking about the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. And so this tracks our graduates and where our graduates, what they're doing in college. So you can see in our 2020, so this is our high school graduates from 2019 and where they are. So there's 38 of them in a 4-year public university. There's 51 of them in a 2-year junior college. There's 8 in an independent college. And then there's 5 that they just cannot find. I'm not sure what that means, but 102 you cannot find. And then so there was 204 out of there, and then it shows there in the 4-year and the 2-year colleges and the universities there how they're performing while they're in college, what their GPA is. And so you've got 8 that are less than a 2.0 and so forth. But anyways, so that's really kind of, this is our district school report card. We did not get an accountability rating. Typically we would get an accountability rating of an A, B, C, D, or F, and so we were not rated because we were declared a state of disaster again because of the pandemic. So, does anybody have any questions or comments?
So basically, in a nutshell, despite rising at-risk indicators and rising poverty, we had dips, but it was not to the extent that the state and the region had. So that's a good thing. It was good to see all those green bars and not something in red. Shane, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you guys.
Draw the consent agenda.
All right. We have minutes of January 11th, minutes of January 18th, financial statements as of December 31st, financial statements as of January 31st, bills and payrolls for January 2022, budget amendments, year-to-date budget amendments to fund balance, high school renovation financial update, vital signs report, food service report. Does anybody want to pull any of those for discussion, or do we want to approve them? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? And none opposed. All right. Good. Moving on. Middle of the year reading and math inventory scores. Professor Webb again.
Hello again. All right, so we have been taking beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year assessments just to kind of see where our kids are over the past several years. And so these are just some assessments that we commonly take, and this is a new one I added in that we've been taking with our pre-K kids. But our pre-K kids take one's called Circle Progress Monitoring, and it's just a web-based pre-kindergarten assessment used by pre-K teachers to determine their students' knowledge in key developmental areas. And so you can kind of see where our kids are. They're about where they were middle of the year as they were in the beginning of the year, but for the most part, a majority of them are on track. And again, these are These are kids that have to qualify for pre-K, and then we also have some of our staff kids that are in that program as well. Tex Kia is another one. So this is for all kindergarten students, and so this is the reading. And so you can kind of look at the beginning of the year. You had 16% of them on track, 23% that are kind of in the middle, and another 62% that need support. And then it charts almost flipped by the middle of the year. So seeing a lot of good improvement out of kindergarten. And so we're really liking, the teachers are really liking the new phonics materials that we're using with the Haggerty and the foundations. This is the math, the same thing. You can kind of see the improvement there from the beginning of the year. So 39% at the beginning of the year, we're on track, and now you got 64%. And so we hope by the end of the year, when we come back and report on this again in June, we'll see even a bigger jump. And so that's the hope. First grade, again, every first, even kindergarten, but K through 2, everyone has to have a reading inventory. And so Tex Kia is for kindergarten, and then TPRI is first and second grades reading inventory. And you can kind of look to kind of see where our kids are. Overall, still developing. Beginning of the year, it was 47%. Now it's down to only 31%. And then developed at the beginning of the year was 53%, and now it's up to 69%. So
does that mean that percentage of kids are reading at grade level?
That means that Michelle, what all? I'm sorry, Keegan. What all is on TPRI? So you're looking at the initial consonant substitution.
It's
so
more phonics pieces, Mr. Raymond. It's not an overall reading level, but it's saying they have those foundational phonics pieces.
So this is part of the program that we just bought.
No, it kind of assesses some of those things. It's not through that program. This is actually a TEA program, TPRI, that meets the requirement of that early reading inventory. But I would say the programs we bought align with what's assessed.
Yeah, every kindergarten through second grade student has to have a reading inventory. And so we use Tex Kia, TPRI. They're free-based programs right now that are on the commissioner's list. But our programs that we're using, the phonics, the foundations, and the Haggerty, helps with these assessments right here.
And at some point in the year, you'll know whether they're reading on grade level or not when they move on to the next grade.
Yes. Yeah, they will. Each kid will have a BAS, a benchmark assessment, at the end of the year to see where they're reading at.
And we do running records monthly to track that as well. It's not reported on here.
That's the best.
Yeah. And so then also first graders take a math inventory as well. And so you can tell there, beginning of the year, most of them are average to superior. We're 83%, and we're about at the same 82% in first grade now. So second grade, so their TPRI, their reading inventory, you can see 54% at the beginning of the year. We're still developing. Now it's down to 48%. So you've seen a little bit of improvement there. And then they take the TIMI also, and you can kind of tell we've kind of, this is an assessment that builds throughout the year, and so you can kind of see where we've taken a little bit of decline in second grade math.
You also have to take that with a little bit of grain of salt because the TIMI is timed. So you get 2 minutes to do as many of the problems as you can. And some kids, they flip to the wrong page, they do different things like that, but it's still a pretty good little test, but it's not just testing accuracy, but quickness.
Two quick minutes.
Yep.
And then third grade map, we're piloting this in math right now, and so this measures projected STAR proficiency. Kind of looking at, we're kind of trying to project where our kids are going to perform STAR-wise. And so you can tell right there at the beginning of the year, 36% were projected not to meet STAR passing standard. 43% were right there at approaches, and then 14% meets and 7% masters. And you can see that it's improved in almost every area. Did not meet, now middle of the year has gone down from 36 to 32%. Approaches has gone from 43 to 36. But our meets has really taken a jump there, and then our masters is at 6 now. So it just kind of lets you try to gauge where we think our kids are going to perform when they take the real thing coming up here in a few months.
Something interesting on that map growth, we've only done it with third grade math, but you get a score on kids on how they average against the nation, because this program is used all over. But something they'll tell you when they come in to train, that Texas expects kids to be 9% higher than the national expectations, which is just interesting to see that how high the standards are. So when they align this data for Texas, it's significantly higher than what the expectation is national. Just something interesting to note.
Even the traditional STAR test, that we always hear about, they're even making that more difficult in the sense that the answer choices are more than just A, B, C, and D now. There's going to be a lot more things where you have to grid in answers, or it might say, pick the 2 best answers. So they're making it trickier and trickier each year. And so it's a moving target for sure.
And so we something we didn't report on was BAS scores at middle of the year, because the only ones we assessed were kids reading below grade level, so it wasn't going to be an apples to apples when you look at middle of the year. We'll report back on that again at the end of the year. So when you're looking at K through 6, K through 7, 8. So does anybody have any questions?
Thanks,
All right, thank you guys.
All righty. Thank you very much. And now Dr. Sanderson will talk to us about ESSER. We like ESSER.
You do? I like ESSER too. So part of the ESSER requirements are that every 6 months we have to review our what they call return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan and our use of funds plan. And so you have the RIPICS plan is what they call it in the board book, and we have our final funds in. We get $3.8 million for ESSER, the federal grant, ESSER 3. This is the 3rd phase of that ESSER grants. And we review that. We had a review about 3 weeks ago, I think. I can't remember the exact date. Just put out a survey to the stakeholders, let them provide their input. And then we look at current CDC guidance and see where that's at, and we update our plan based on the current CDC guidance and then where our needs are. Because the first plan was in August, or actually July. And the reality is schools change, and we have different needs now than we may have had 6 months ago. And so we look at that, adjust the main thing for the CDC guidance is they minimize the quarantine time for adults. And so that was added into the plan. And then based on our stakeholder input, the survey that we took, running a school in a global pandemic is challenging enough, and so we wanted to focus in on a narrow amount of things, and that is, one, providing relevant, meaningful professional development to our teachers to help them continue to improve their craft. And we missed 2 years of professional development with the pandemic, and so we want to try to get that back up to speed. And then another prong is equipping our students and our teachers with technology, computers, Chromebooks. And then finally, recruiting and retaining highly qualified personnel, which is a challenge in a pandemic. And so those are kind of our 3 main points moving forward. There's other components of it, but I just hit the highlights of the changes. So the other stuff was in there in the plan before. Questions? We will have this meeting again in 6 months from now. And,
this will be really the end of it, though, right?
No, we did. This is a 3-year grant,
okay.
And so we'll do this all of next school year and then the following school year. And continue to update and review. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, now we'll return to the Barrett Pollard Show.
Yeah. These will be quick. These 3 are ones that we review pretty frequently, and the first one being our educational philosophy. And so just kind of historically, back in 2017, we had a big strategic planning committee. Lots of different folks served on it. We came up with all the beliefs and objectives and all that good information. The portrait of the graduate was updated and improved again in April of 2019. And then in June of 2021, remember we switched our motto over to doing what's best for kids, and that's what Willie Clark had coined many years ago. And so those have really been the only more recent changes. And so this was an information item only, basically just to kind of, if there was any feedback, do you feel good with all the information so far still? So that is the educational philosophy. Next is the board operating procedures, and these are important things that, all of our different functions, governance and selecting board officers, board meetings, complaints, all those, my evaluation, code of ethics, and again, Holly Wardell and Tyler Ezell are two main attorneys from Aquabon Wardell. They review these documents, make sure it's consistent and kosher with all the new legislation and local policies, and so we should be up to date and good on all those from their perspective. So did anybody have any comments about board operating procedures in general? And again, we'll review these pretty frequently. The last one of the three items that we always look at together is the board activity calendar. That's a month by month, what are we supposed to be making sure we take care of and we don't forget. And so it includes things for regular meetings and special meetings. At the November 21 board meeting, we did make a slight change. We included the assistant athletic director and the group of administrators whose contracts were renewed in February. And so we had made that switch, and that was probably the most recent change we had made to the board activity calendar. Do y'all have any?
Other than 5:30 meetings from 6:30.
5:30, yeah, from 6:30 to 5:30. So is that still working well for everybody, 5:30? Well, we like to put those on your agenda periodically so it gives y'all an opportunity to make changes or comments if we need to. Well, I think that's all the information items.
Well, now discussion items, you get to go again.
So the first one has to do with our bad weather that we had a couple of weeks ago. So remember, we have to have a certain amount of instructional minutes each year, and all of our campuses have varying levels of cushion. And so the one that the least amount of cushion is the primary. Since their day is shorter. And so they had enough to have one bad weather day, but then we had a second one. And so as opposed to saying, okay, y'all going to come up here Good Friday or Saturday or spring break, we decided, well, we'll just add 7 minutes to their day. And the families, Bashara communicated it.
It's been fine.
They had no issues with it. And so I'm hoping by the end of this week we don't have any more bad weather, because it's going to start getting real hard on those primary kids.
We may have some.
Yeah, and so we're hoping that we don't miss school, but it shouldn't impact anything with arrival or dismissal. The other thing we need to go over with you guys is, from a contractual standpoint with the staff, we're recommending that the staff not be made to make up those 2 bad weather days. So in other words, well, we're going to make you come after Memorial Day for a couple of days extra. And so that's what we wanted you guys to weigh in on. And in fact, a lot of those pointed out the coaches and teachers were busy that Thursday with UIL realignment. They were working from home, phone calling and emailing. And so I would recommend that the board waive those 2 contractual days, our staff missed due to inclement weather, and not make them make that up. So that's the recommendation.
I move we do that.
All right, we have a motion to accept that recommendation to waive. Does anybody want to second that? Linda seconds that. Any discussion? All for? And no one opposed, okay.
Thank you, guys. The staff will be appreciative of that. The next item is the school calendar. So each year we've got to get ahead of that pretty quickly, the 2022-2023 school calendar. So we met in the DEIC committee and got feedback from those folks. And basically we have 2 options. Option A is basically a replica of the past year, almost verbatim. And then choice B was one where we went a week later, still get out before Memorial Day, but then you take those 5 days and you sprinkle holidays throughout where we had some long stretches. And so I didn't think anything was going to be option A, but option B got out, had more votes by just a little bit. It was very close. It was option B. We had 283 responses from the staff. 51.2% voted for B, and 48.8% voted for A. So they decided to, a few more wanted to go ahead and do the extra 5 days, and in return, we get the Monday after Easter. We get, the comp days are a little bit different. The comp days now are on Columbus Day, Valentine's Day, and President's Day. So like a lot of times, if you've done your 3 comp days in the summer, you'd be off today. Another crowd favorite was we'd have staff development on Halloween and Cinco de Mayo. And so being around kids on Halloween is torture. And so the staff really wanted to have that day off. We'll still celebrate the Friday before, but they'll have the day of off for staff development away from the kids. And then the 2 early outs coincide with our farthest away games. So September 16th we go to Mahia, September 30th we go to Mineral Wells. And so I've attached the 2 options, and here's B. So we're recommending to you guys, based on feedback from DEIC, and a small majority of the staff said let's go ahead and go with B. A lot of people would email me and say I'm pretty good either way, but B had slightly more votes, so that will be our recommendation tonight.
We have a recommendation for calendar B. Do I hear anybody to nominate to vote for that? Okay. Jimmy makes the motion. And does anybody second it? All right, we have a second. Any discussion? All 4? All right, you got it.
Thank you, guys. The next one's another compliance piece. It's all the contract forms that we get this big stack of legal documents from Holly Wardell and the Eichelbaum crew, and that's what we use to give people their contracts. And so those lawyers review all that, they proof it, and they send it to us in a big package, and we pay for it. It's not expensive. It's usually around a couple $100. And so we've been using it for years. They update them each year to make sure that they're relevant. So I would recommend that the board continue to use the contract forms offered and approved by our law firm, Eichelbaum Wardell.
All right, we have a motion. Does anybody, okay? I'll make a motion. Anybody want to second it? Calvin, do we have any discussion? All 4? Okay.
My last one tonight is an interesting one. It's the creation of a school police department. So the SRO program, I feel like, has been one of the best things that we've done here as far as just increasing school safety, not putting the onus of school security on teachers, where remember at one point we were going down the pathway of possibly arming them and different things like that. And so the SRO program, I feel like, has been really good. They're very well liked by the staff. Those officers are good role models for the kids. The kids get to see police officers in a good situation where you see that they're your friend. And so the impetus behind this, though, basically having our own school police department, would be having greater control over the police. Sometimes it's difficult when the city needs them to come on patrol and report for duty, and then there's always confusion as far as like, well, we're on duty, but the kids aren't here, where do we report? And also we think we might be able to save a little bit of money if we do it in-house as well. And so what I'm asking for tonight, this may be I hope it's not a real slow and arduous process. I hope it's relatively quick. I have alerted the mayor and the police chief that we're contemplating doing this. They had no qualms about it. There was no gnashing of teeth or worried about it. And I told them it would take some time for us to figure out all the paperwork, but it's a doable process. Chief Golke's willing to help out. We've talked to some local folks like Mr. Adcock, that's former police chief in Bastrop, that's willing to help us with it. Gary Stiles, our current sergeant, we've kind of tasked him with any PD days. You work on this. You work on researching how to create a school district police program. And a lot of districts have done it, so we don't think it would be a huge undertaking. And again, the 2 major advantages would be just greater control, picking out who we want quickly, and possible cost savings. And so I would recommend that the board approve the district exploring the creation of our own police department, and we'll give you the updates as the process unfolds.
Okay, the motion is to explore not do it, but to explore doing it. Okay, does it have a motion for that? Okay, Calvin, do you have a second? Okay. Any discussion?
I think the schools that do it, it's been very successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Schools I know that do it.
So we're definitely.
And I do think that it leaves the superintendent to everybody more control over actually what happens to these kids. And you don't have to run down to the police department.
You're gonna work for the school, you need to be an employee.
Yeah.
So do you see this as a department as directly reporting to you? You'd be
Yes.
supervising that?
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
I'd like to include a uniform for myself too.
All for? Just see you in it. Anybody against? All right. Technology for Education, TFE.
Oh, that's Mr. Fletcher.
Daryl.
Uh-oh.
Daryl is first.
Barry didn't point out the fact that you still have the same number of board meetings on the calendar, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't reduce those.
No. Same
We didn't have
amount.
any either. That's good. All right, this item has to do with the E-rate program. It's a federal government program that provides funding for, it started out with libraries and schools. And there was a category 1 and a category 2. Category 1 pretty much went out the window. There's not much funding for category 1 anymore. That used to be like lines, phone lines. That's back when you used phone lines to access the internet through modems. You recall that little jingle, little noise? And so that's kind of what category 1 was. Category 2 is for internal connections. And we use that to purchase our Wi-Fi hotspots. Where is it here? Is that one? Right over here? Those little gizmos right there that provide us the wireless technology across the whole district. And so the E-rate program is a great way of funding those. And we, Shelley primarily worked on this and put together a proposal. We do have Region 12, the E-rate consulting group from Region 12 that helps us manage this program, because it's a very intensive, very detailed, and a lot of legal stuff that the average school district can't keep up with. So Region 12 put together this Region 12 consulting for E-rate, and a lot of districts have gone with them. We've been with them for a number of years, and so they've assisted us with this process. So we put together what we needed in terms of internal connections, including Wi-Fi. Most of it was for the spots themselves, Wi-Fi spots, and some of it also with the ancillary equipment. You'll see on the second page there that we're going to be proposing $110,000 roughly. And the E-rate program is based on our eco disadvantaged percentage. And based on our eco percentage, our rate should be at 20%. So E-rate pays 80% of the cost, and then we bear 20% of the cost. So that's why on this agenda form that we have for you, that we were requesting $22,000 be approved by the board. The whole contract itself is $110,000, and so since that exceeds the $50,000 contract, it really needs to come by the board for your approval. These were submitted to bids. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 bids, and the winning bidder was TFE. We've done a lot of business with TFE over the years. They're a great outfit and have done us really a good job. And based on the scoring matrix that we do together, TFE was the winning bidder. They're also the lowest bidder. So we're asking that you approve our contract. This is for E-rate services starting July 1 of 22. So that's the next E-rate window, and that's when this contract will take effect. So would you please approve this contract with TFE for the 110 roughly, which our part will be about 22,000.
Do I hear
I'll be
a
happy to answer any questions.
motion to approve the FTE contract?
TFE.
TFE.
Mhm.
Okay, Jimmy? A second? Calvin? Discussion? Okay, vote, all four. Any opposed? And it carries.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Pam Williams.
I'll go this way. Good evening. Each year, we renew our regional day school contract for the deaf in Temple. And so we have reached that time where we do that. And what they provide for us are services for our auditory impaired students that we can't provide here. The signing, if they need an interpreter in class, specific curriculum that they use. And so right now we have one student that we send. Tuition is $7,500 a year for each student, and they look at that yearly. And then we provide transportation there and back. So it's my recommendation that we renew the agreement with Temple Regional Day School for the program for the deaf. Do you have any questions?
Do I hear a motion that we renew the agreement? Okay. You may second that? Okay. Any discussion for Pam?
Pam and I went over to that school at Temple last spring, and it really is a neat
It's
operation.
nice. It's a great campus. It's brand new.
Yeah, 2-story.
What is the typical number we usually send over there? Is one
This
kind of
is-
low?
We don't usually have any. Like
Oh, okay.
this, it's pretty rare for us to send any. So right now we just have one. So most of our services for our auditory impaired students are itinerant, and we have in-house that provides those services here in our district. But when it reaches the point that we can't service them, that's when we look at sending them.
About how many kids do they have? You might not know that.
Oh, I don't know. They
wasn't
co-op.
it? Yeah.
They co-op with 5 or 6 different districts. So not only theirs, but around.
The program is housed at just one of their elementary campuses, but there's probably about 4 or 5 classrooms there at the top that they pull them in and work with them. And these students are not just hard of hearing, they're severely hard of hearing. And so it goes beyond what we can do for them. And then they go into out classes and try to perform in those classes. Then they come back for help, and all their staff is trained to sign, and it's pretty impressive.
So if they stay in school all their years, they'll graduate in those schools.
Through there, yes. Most times they start out there, and the goal is to get them to where they can be back at their home campus here with us. It doesn't always work that way, but that's the goal.
This student in particular and her family, they really want her to come back, be a Hornet.
Correct. Okay, all four? Anyone opposed? All right, we got it.
Thank you.
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks.
Yeah.
We like Chromebooks.
Until you see the price tag.
Uh-oh. All right, you guys sit back down, please. We'll go on to the executive session.
In this agenda item, we're requesting funding approval to purchase replacement Chromebooks for the district's end-of-life devices. To determine end of life, Google publishes an auto update expiration date for each Chromebook model. Every Chrome device receives regular updates from Google until it reaches that auto update expiration date. So those device updates that have ended that expiration date, we went out for bids, and we received 5 different bids, and SHI came in under the lowest, and it is for 1,050 Chromebooks. That is how many that we are needing to replace. So our district has over 2,700 Chromebooks for student use, and our goal is to utilize that device for 5 years or longer if it is in good condition. And a lot of these that we are replacing are anywhere from 5 to 7 years old. So there are quite a few in there that are 6 or 7 years that made it to that 7 years. And that auto update is what is going to end in June of 2022. So we've been planning for that for quite some time. We knew this was coming because We can access that website to see what that auto expiration date looks like. So we keep track of that so that we know which dates and which Chromebooks we need to update. So with that being said, we are recommending to approve the purchase of 1,050 Chromebooks and Chrome management licenses from SHI.
They have a built-in death date, basically. So what you've done 5, 6, 7 years, that's all she wrote. They are making them better though, because used to the kids could pop the keys off and things like that, and now they build them to where they're more one piece and they're more durable. Shelley's been pleased with the newer models.
The latest model, and when we received the 600 from TEA, the program that TEA offered, we obtained a device at that point, and we're looking at that same model except the later model that has more RAM, more hard drive space, and the faster processor. So it's the newer model of the one that we received from the TFE that purchased from TEA, that we co-opt with them to get a better price. But they definitely have been holding up much better than the previous ones. We had some that I think are 2014 and 2015 that we purchased, and those are in that replacement. So.
And we'll use ESSER money for this.
Do I hear a motion to accept the purchase of the Chromebooks? Linda? Do I have a second? Okay.
Charles is big on one-to-one until he sees the price tag. What happened, Charles? He got cold feet.
He's been fighting for this for years.
Discussion. Okay, I have a question on discussion.
Okay.
The Chromebooks, how many grade levels have the Chromebooks?
All grade levels have
K through
Chromebooks,
12.
but K through 12.
Every classroom 6 through 12 has one right now.
Has a
cart.
charging station with,
Has a
Cart.
okay. So
Between-
you don't check them out to a student for the year and carry them around. When they go in like to a Spanish class, they're going to use them. The Spanish teacher has them, and the Spanish teacher checks them out for the kids, and then they turn them in at the end of the period.
Correct.
Okay.
Fourth and fifth have about 5 carts to check out. I think elementary has 5 or 6 checkout carts.
So every student has access to computer,
Everybody can use them.
system-wide. Okay.
Yeah, and all elementary classrooms also have 3 to 5
They all have
Chrome devices in their
elementary
classroom for
has
like
5.
station work. So they're all using them in some sort of fashion. We've been talking about, do we need to think about one in every classroom, 3 throughout with the new testing also? I mean, those are things for us to start thinking about. Because every kid will take an online STAR test, 3rd grade and up, starting next year.
It's great in theory, and also it's just the money aspect, and then also sometimes you have the money, but then the supply. Because Shelley's encountered that before too, where you hear supply chain issues where here's the money, we're waiting for it, but you can't. What was the lag time last time, Shelley?
The main reason why we started this process now is because they're ending in June, but we wanted to be able to get them before school starts. So we knew that we needed to start looking at purchasing and putting our numbers out there so that we could get those. I tried to, it was laptops actually, we were replacing laptops, and we put in our purchase request in September, and I just received those laptops in January. That's how long that order took to come in.
Are students allowed to take them home?
On a special needs
They
basis.
can check out like if they're doing research?
If it's a special needs basis.
They have to have an
they're
extreme
sending-
need. One thing that what we learned during the remote learning, when they would come and check them out, we did have quite a few that either didn't come back or they came back in such a condition to where they were unusable. So we try to protect the property as best we can. Now there are times sometimes where there's an extreme situation, we work out an agreement with the parent and the family. But for the most part, we try to keep them where, check them out for classroom work during the period, then you put it back.
Shelley, what do y'all do with the 1,000 you're replacing?
Some recycle places actually will buy them back from you for maybe $10 or $20 a piece. What we need to do is bring them all in, and then you have to section them by models, because before they'll give you a quote, they want to know the model and the condition, and they have conditions 1 through 4 or something. We'll bring all of those back in, and we will look at the models and then go out for quotes to see what amount they'll be willing to give us. The C731 model is, we have quite a few of those. We would like to keep those for parts because the C733 still needs to last our district until 2026. And that is a model that is very easy to pop off buttons. And so the buttons and the little hinges and everything that are on that motherboard, we're going to need those motherboards. So we're going to use that model to keep as parts, because that model too is getting harder. Parts are getting harder to receive as well. But
Are these Chromebooks set up so that you can't roam around in them, like on inappropriate sites?
so filtered, they are definitely filtered. And part of the line item that you see on the Chrome management license, that license is perpetual to that device. It lasts to the end of life of that device. So anytime you buy a new Chromebook, you purchase that management license, and we manage, we can configure and basically control that Chromebook from that, and we push filtering on there too. So they're filtered. You can run reports off of the student, and it's based off of their login name, so we know exactly which login went where, if we need to run a report or if a report is requested for that reason.
They can even type a certain word into an email and send it, and it creates a flag, like if they use the word suicide or shooting, then it prompts, it goes to you, Shelley, and
We've started sending all of those to.
That's what it sounds like.
To the principals and assistant principals will start seeing those things if those do come through.
Yeah.
The Chrome management license also allows us to, that Chromebook, once it joins our district, it is always under our management. And if it is taken to someplace else in the world, and you try to reformat it or restart it and think you're going to power wash it, the moment it boots up, because it knows our serial number that's embedded in it, it phones home and it knows that it belongs to Gatesville ISD again. So it boots up, and only a Gatesville ISD login can log into it. And if we are aware of a device that may be missing, we can put it in a lost situation, and it will boot up and say, please return to Gatesville ISD. So that management license not only does those sorts of things, but it also allows us to filter or to instantly, when you boot up in testing mode for STAR testing, we can push down, make this a STAR testing Chromebook, and it will automatically boot up into the STAR test mode. And that's all done through that management license.
Last question for me. Are the teachers required to use them in their classroom? If you're going to purchase them, are they going to use them?
At the junior high, they're used in almost every classroom every day.
We're starting to push more assessments through as well.
I will say we were at high school last week, and we were prepping them for benchmarking, and basically we were going in during a conference period, rebooting and making sure that it was up to date, just so that it was going to be running. We could see from the management that maybe one or two needed an update or something, so we were going in there to run those updates during a conference time. And the teacher, as she was leaving, said, I've got to find another cart that I can borrow. And we're like, no, we're just going to be here when you get back out of your conference period, these will be ready to go again. But I think they were ready to panic that they were not going to have that card. So we see that a lot. They definitely miss it if it's going to be out of the room for a second.
So to answer your question, Charles, I wouldn't use the word forced. I think they're used frequently, very organically, like the teachers and kids want them.
So then the next time we would be looking at a large purchase like this, you said 2024? You said
The 2026, and basically when we looked at the end of life to purchase these, I could have obtained a cheaper Chromebook, but it would have ended in 2026 with the majority of our other dates. So, and it would have also meant getting a model that was a couple of years old that we have already had. So we were looking at a model that's going to carry us, and that end of life is actually 2029. So the next big number that's going to come due is going to be in 2026, and then we're going to have around 700 of them in 2027, and then there's a little bit in 2028 and 2029. But I think 2026 has been a big year for all districts. People were buying Chromebooks, and that just seemed like it was the magic number, because that auto update updates the software, it updates the hardware, it updates everything for that device. And eventually it's hard and it's not just Chrome that's updating, it's the companies and their software. So eventually they're putting a date on this piece of hardware will not update to the latest that we need it to do.
Any more questions? We have motions, and so now we vote. All four? Anyone opposed to the purchase? Okay. Go
Thank
buy.
you. Thank
Christmas
you.
time.
PO goes in tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
All right. It is 6:38, and we're going to go into executive session.